Here I'm using the bikini template and I have two designs already ready and I will be using these two as examples to make thumbnails. First, you want to convert your file to, this is what I do, I convert another file into a ZEPETO Studio file and I rename it Thumb. This will be used as my base for creating any thumbnail for this specific item. Now I can go into the joints and change the angles. Some items, the arms are in T pose, so you want to rotate the shoulder joints so they are in A pose or closer to the body. To make the thumbnail more attractive, sometimes you want to manipulate the curves of the person, of the avatar. So here I'm just going to widen the hip joints and making the waist look thinner. The reason why I like to convert a new thumbnail file is because whatever changes you do now in this prefab file, it will be saved for your next project. So you won't need to redo it every time you want to use the same template. Throughout any stage of this recording, you can already make a thumbnail, screenshot, and then delete the background. So over here, I want to make the skin tone a skin more human flesh color instead of the gray. So I've created a material ball for all my skins. They're all the same shade. Um, you can change the smoothness to give it more contrast and glossiness. So the icon can also just stand out more or make it darker skin or lighter skin. At this point, the item is already good enough to take a screenshot and save it as a thumbnail. So I'm going to take a screenshot and I'm going to paste it into Photoshop. Often for one template, you have more than one design. In this case, I have a red and an orange design. So for my thumbnail, I'm just going to go in and drag my already textured ball onto the thumbnail item, and then I'm going to screenshot it. And then the same thing, paste it into Photoshop. I will demonstrate later on how to actually edit it in Photoshop to export as a thumbnail. If you don't like how the item shading and colors look in the with the blue background, you can drag it into your scene and take the screenshot from here. You can also rotate the item at a 45 or 30-degree angle to make it a more interesting icon that stands out through the rest. To add more shading and definition, I like to rotate the item to negative 45 degrees and then just turn this item around. So now you can actually see that it's lighter on the left and darker on the right. For certain items, you don't actually want the skin to be visible. So what you can do is go back and create a new material instead of replacing it with the skin, you're replacing with a transparent shader. I'm now going to show you how to take items using the loader. Certain items, such as tattoo items, would require this. Click on the loader, then drag in the item in the correct category. I then also like to change the hash code to my own avatar, as it usually already has a body type that can help make the item icon look more attractive. And once it's loaded, I will just hide all the items that aren't relevant for the thumbnail, such as the hair and all the other accessories. For this, I'm going to change the ZEPETO controller to the other one that I have downloaded. This will let me be able to rotate joints while it's in loading mode. This is in its generic form, and I feel like the shoulders are a bit too high and perky, so I'm going to just rotate the joints. So you will notice while you're playing around, certain things like clicking on Control Z and replaying or changing poses and so on, it will reset the avatar pose. So just be very careful when you're adjusting this. Here again, I'm rotating the loader to -45 to give a more defined shading to the thumbnail. To change the design of your items without any errors, instead of dragging the material ball into the scene material like I demonstrated earlier, find the item under the loader and then change the material over there. I'm now going to show you how to actually edit the image in Photoshop to adjust it to work as a good thumbnail. So here I'm cropping the whole image so that the item is center of a square framed image. Once you set with the angle, you will see that all the screenshots should overlap each perfectly. So over here, I'm just hiding the rest of the other thumbnails that I don't need. I'm going to select the one that I want to edit and use the wand tool to select all the outside parts that I want to delete. So check the settings that I'm clicking now and play with the tolerance level to make sure that when you click the wand tool, it's not picking up any other gray parts that you don't want to delete. Once you are done with that, you can use the rectangular selection tool or any other form of selection tool to select the other elements that you don't want. When you're happy with your selection, you can simply click delete and then select your second item layer and then click delete as well. This is how I usually like to make my thumbnails. So I would group them together and highlight the neck part that I don't want and then just mask it. So for future, if I do want to include perhaps more neck or less neck, I can easily adjust this and not be worried that it was deleted from my previous session. Once I'm happy with this, I can just export the file and making sure that it's thumbnail size, which is 144 by 144. I like to export it into a folder where I keep all my thumbnails and labeling it by the item name. You can do it however you want, but this is how I like to keep myself organized. To even go further in creating your thumbnail, you can adjust the brightness and contrast levels. And now you're done. So you would export each of the thumbnail designs one by one. I usually like to save this Photoshop file just in case I want to reuse the same template and I wouldn't need to remake a Photoshop base.